News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
KVNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by the Duck Hunter. With 15 new COVID deaths listed in the Utah Department of Health Wednesday report, there have been 4,237 lives lost to the coronavirus over the course of the pandemic. Included in the report is a Cache County woman between 65 and 84 years of age who was hospitalized at the time of death. In Utah's 3 northern counties, 211 have died from coronavirus. Statewide, COVID-19 statistics indicate 2,062 new positive cases since Tuesday. The rolling 7-day average for positive tests is now 2,173 over the last 7 days. The statewide coronavirus caseload since the start of the pandemic is now at 907,174. Included in today's report were 121 cases in the Bear River Health District, where the total case count grew to 50,390. Within the district, 1,932 people have been hospitalized. Infections among children in grades K through 12 amount to 290 of Wednesday's total cases, which is 14% of the total. KVNU News Time is 4:06. KVNU weather for tonight: partly cloudy skies, widespread haze, overnight low in the mid-teens, and then hazy sunshine tomorrow, upper 30s for the high. It's 35 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. Don't pay for the expense of dry cleaning when you can clean your items at Mount Logan Laundry for much less. Located at 5th East, 9th North in Logan, also 1st East and 7th South in Brigham City.
Does your home have that stuffy winter smell? John at the Duck Hunter says it could be your air ducts holding on to dust and other surprises. To get rid of that smell, give John a call at the Duck Hunter. He'll thoroughly clean each duct in every room, not with a shop vac, but with forced air and a vacuum that'll make your mom proud. He can even run a camera through your vents to see what's going on. For a free consultation, call the Duck Hunter at 770-4813.
We are the Duck Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duck Hunter.
KVNU News Time is 4:07. Logan City is beginning demolition of the Logan Library building at 255 North Main Street. The demolition phase will take about 1 month, during which time 300 North will be closed to through traffic from Main Street to 100 West. Pedestrians will be redirected to the east side of Main Street or to 100 West between 200 and 400 North. The parking lots for City Hall and the post office will still be available and can be accessed from 200 North and 100 West as usual. Motorists are urged to please slow down while traveling in the area. Construction vehicles may be entering and exiting frequently, so the city advises for the safety of all to please give them room. The Logan Library opened their temporary location at the Logan City Service Center on January 31st. And the new library structure is expected to be completed by spring or summer of 2023. And a bill that would stop any government entity, including local school boards, from issuing a mask mandate passed an Idaho Legislative Committee today. The legislation is sponsored by St. Anthony Republican Representative Carrie Hanks, who has repeatedly tried to get a ban on mask mandates passed since the coronavirus pandemic began. Hanks says shouldn't dictate an individual's health choices and that Idaho residents are ready to deal with the risks. The bill passed on a party line vote, now goes to the full House. A tally by Johns Hopkins University shows 1 in every 136 people in Idaho tested positive for COVID-19 in the past week. KVNU News Time is 4:09. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Covering all the news. Stay with 610 AM and 102.1 FM. News Talk KVNU.
Cache Valley Chamber of Commerce invites you to attend the annual awards gala on Friday, March 4th. It's at the Riverwoods Conference Center. Enjoy a wonderful evening of fine dining in recognition of Cache Valley's outstanding businesses and individuals, including Citizen of the Year, New Small Business, Event of the Year, Nonprofit Mentor of the Year, and Woman of the Year. Featuring musical entertainment from America's Got Talent finalist Kennedy Dodds. Don't miss the Cache Chamber Awards Gala Friday, March 4th at the Riverwoods. Reserve your seat at cashechamber.com or call 752-2161.
2022 is all about you. This is Dan at the Sports Academy. It's time to take control of one of the most important parts of your life, your health. Sports Academy offers the largest variety of fitness equipment and group fitness classes like cycling, yoga, high fitness, Zumba, and water aerobics. Classes for all ages and abilities. Take control of your health and experience the difference at the Sports Academy. Your club, your results, your life.
Hi everyone, it's Congressman Blake Moore here. This month, my staff is coming to you. Our team will be traveling throughout the 1st District, hosting mobile office hours to address casework and hear how we can best serve you. Come bring questions, thoughts, or any issues with federal agencies straight to Team Moore. My team will be in several locations from February 4th through February 9th. Visit my website at www.blakemore.house.gov for the full schedule and follow us on social media at Rep. Blake Moore for regular updates. Thank you. Paid for by official funds authorized by the U.S. House of Representatives.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight
with Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People, hour one of today's show, Wednesday, February 9th. I'm Jason Williams, Bill Walter here in the studio as well. I appreciate you all tuning in. We've got a nice look at the legislative session so far. To follow up on Monday's show, there's been a lot going on. We'll talk about the future of education bills. We'll talk about the future of tax bills, tax reform. Well, not tax reform, income tax cut on hold, surprisingly, after some key groups came out in opposition to it, saying that Utah needs to invest in itself rather than cut taxes at this time. One of those groups being the Silicon Slopes Tech Lobby. They make up 25 to 30% of our current workforce in Utah, the tech industry, and needless to say, they've got some weight to throw around, and some lawmakers listening enough that leadership said just yesterday that they're not sure if they have the votes at this point for an income tax cut after seeing it as kind of a done deal at the end of last week. We'll see where this goes. A bit of a discussion about that will go on probably throughout this week. We should know maybe by Friday, if not Monday, whether or not an income tax cut is going to happen. But some developments on that front we'll recap here on the show today. I want to start off with a couple of reminders. One, a listener request. The first, though, is a reminder, a show or an interview we were able to do here on the show on Monday with Ted Hansen, who is a local historian, and he's the railroad guy. He will be presenting tonight, 7 p.m. at the historic Cache County Courthouse, an event brought to you by the Cache Valley Historical Society titled The Birth and Death of the Utah-Idaho Central Railroad. The event is this evening. It's free. It's at 7 p.m. at the historic Cache County Courthouse there at 199 North Main, corner of 2nd North and Main in Logan. And again, it's a free event. We spoke with Hansen on the show on Monday, and he told us that, trains, the railroad, have been a part of his family throughout his life. He talked about his father working for the Utah-Idaho Central Railroad for 28 years. His uncle, who was from Preston, worked for them for about the same amount of time. Grew up in a family that was a railroad family, and he said that's where his interest began. He started researching and writing, and he'll be giving a presentation tonight at 7 p.m. at the historic Cache County Courthouse on rail in northern Utah. the loop, the connection to Pocatello through Preston, all of this forgotten now, might be a part of our future, ironically. Those conversations also happening on Capitol Hill the last few weeks as the session churns on. But Ted is here to bring you the history, how it began and how it ended, the Utah-Idaho Central Railroad. Presentation tonight at 7 p.m., again at the historic Cache County Courthouse, free to the public. And if you've never had a chance to hear Ted speak or meet him in person, it's a treat. And he is the railroad guy. CacheValleyHistory.com, where you can get more information or just be there tonight at 7 p.m. Also, this is the listener-requested one, and the listener happens to be a member of the Logan City Library staff. We had Library Director Karen Clark on the show in December talking about how this was all going to work with the upcoming move and kind of, a little more than a year of it being a bit odd to use the library, but people still wanting to, of course. The new facility is just over the horizon, to say the least, as Karen told us that day, but the Logan City Library, after shutting down December and January to make the official move to a temporary location, is fully up and operational, but out of a new temporary location. So library staff asked us to remind people because I guess they're getting inundated with calls. The new location is the Logan City Services Center. That's 950 West, 600 North. This is a temporary spot as the old building is torn down, new building is constructed. This could take a while, a little more than a year is what they're thinking, maybe 2 if things go wrong, fingers crossed. So the Logan City Services Center, they've set up a temporary library. Now, of course, all online services are unaffected. Any online service the library offered, none of that has changed. So if you're using those services, don't expect any disruption there at all. This is for in-person services only, basically physically checking media or a book out. The way this works, just a reminder for everyone out there, at the request of Logan City Library staff, at the Logan City Services Center, 950 West, 600 North, the library is temporarily housed, and they do not allow citizens to just come down and browse the collection. There's a lack of space. This is basically a warehouse, and there are some potential safety hazards that the library staff has been trained on, but it could put the public at risk. So this isn't a come down and browse the library temporary location. This is a place to physically store all the library's collection and let you check it out physically rather than being restricted only to the online services. So the way this works, again, citizens can place items on hold by either calling the library, same numbers that they've always used and available at the Logan City website if you don't have them, or you can visit the library's website at loganutah.org as well, and basically reserve or check out an item. Once you've done that, the items can be picked up in the lobby, or a library employee can bring the items right out to your car at this temporary location at the Logan Services Center. So again, you can't come down and browse, but the physical collection is there temporarily and maybe for some time as this new building is constructed. But you do need to call ahead or visit the library's website to check the item out. And at that point, you'll be instructed when you can come and pick it up. And again, you can do that by going into the lobby there at the Services Center, or if you prefer, let them know a library employee can actually bring it right out to your car. So this is similar to how they've been checking out books through the early part of 2020, if you took advantage of that. So, just a reminder from our friends at the Logan City Library, this is not a come down and browse temporary location. I guess a lot of people have been expecting that, hearing there was a temporary location at the Logan City Services Center. That location, again, 950 West, 600 North, but this is not a walk through the library situation. This is basically everything's been shoved into a warehouse. They know where it's at. They know how to navigate it safely. If you call or make a reservation online, the item will be waiting for you. They'll bring it out to your car there at the Service Center building, or you can just step into the lobby and let them know you're there to pick up an item from the library. But again, no in-person browsing allowed at this time. So just a quick reminder from our friends at the Logan City Library, and fingers crossed that everything goes as planned and they're able to get back to normal sooner rather than later, but still going to be nice to see that new building go up finally. More of KVNU's For the People right after this.
Do you want to learn to ski or snowboard or know someone who does? Come join the Learn to Turn First Time Beginner class at Beaver Mountain. $80 gets you a 2-hour group lesson, your ski and snowboard rental, and a Little Beaver lift ticket for the day. Learn to Turn is for ages 6 and up for skiing or snowboarding and is offered daily at 10 a.m. Or you can try Learn to Turn 1, 2, 3, commit and complete 3 Learn to Turn packages in one season for $220 and get a Little Beaver season pass for the rest of the season. Come on up and ski the Beav.
This is Polka. And this is Polka Boosted. Boosted is better. And when it comes to protecting yourself and those around you from COVID-19 and all its variants, it's no different. So if you've been fully vaccinated, don't wait to get boosted. Visit coronavirus.utah.gov today to schedule your booster.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology is Cache Valley's most trusted name in hearing aid technology. Schedule a free consultation with Dr. Paul Daines by calling 753-HEAR or visit cachehearing.com.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. It was a day full of excitement on Capitol Hill. We'll have highlights for you coming up in hour 2, but a fight has broken out. To me, this is when the legislature gets the most interesting. We all like to think of, and I hear, I've never experienced it personally, but I hear at the federal level the same thing happens. Congressman Bishop once told me that even here in the studio. But we like to think of this as this, the politics, the sausage grinding process, or public policy, not politics, as this constant battle between the two major parties, Republicans and Democrats, squaring off on each and every bill, when really those are just the ones you're hearing about and remembering. The majority of the legislative battles are actually between the chambers. And the same, it holds up here in Utah. Because there are far fewer disagreements mainly because they have so few numbers in the House and the Senate, but there are far fewer disagreements between Republicans and Democrats in the Senate or Republicans and Democrats in the House than there are between the House and the Senate as full bodies, where Republicans and Democrats alike are joining together to defend or to fight for what the priorities of their chamber. And that happens a lot more often than you ever hear about. It doesn't make a great headline. It doesn't draw eyeballs and ears. So oftentimes it's neglected. But that's exactly what's happening over the tax cut bill. Of all things, you would think with supermajorities in the House and the Senate here in Utah and the governor's office, you'd think the Republican caucus could basically write the tax cut bill they want, get a lot of media attention for it because that's, of course, why it's happening this year. It's an election year. You know that. These things are pretty transparent. But and then have it be done. The governor's going to sign it. He wouldn't dare not. He's not up for re-election, but he'd have so many Republican lawmakers up for re-election this year mad at him. He'd sign it. But that's not at all what's happening. So first, with this tax cut bill, there was a disagreement between the House and the Senate over how deep they would cut on the income tax. And now so the Senate basically told the House, no, sit down. We're not cutting it to 4.6%, the income tax rate. We'll go from 4.95 to 4.85. That's as much as we can afford to cut without shortchanging future legislatures and generations in this state when it comes to keeping the lights on and investing in the state. So there was a wrinkle thrown in last night by the Utah Tech Council, or not, that's not what they call themselves. That's a different group. It's the lobbying arm of Silicon Slopes, basically. And they threw a wrinkle in things last night by saying they oppose the tax cuts entirely as a business group because they said they're having a hard time hiring employees because Utah is falling behind on investing in itself when it comes to public transit, addressing air quality, addressing housing needs. So they said they have, these tech companies, which make up a sizable chunk of our economy now. They're losing people left and right to areas that have invested more in their infrastructure and their public transit and have done more to keep things clean and nice and have fewer billboards. That was, interestingly, something that one of the lobby groups cited, is that they just felt like Utah was shortchanging itself in a lot of ways. And the billboards on the giant wall of billboards on the freeways was one of the things mentioned as an example. That so people didn't want to live here. And so they were taking jobs elsewhere, and that was putting a crunch on some of these tech companies who would, the lobbyists for these tech companies said in the letter, be forced to leave the state, which would take a lot of jobs out of the state. I mean, this is 25% roughly of our economy right now. And so that was a big handbrake. And then the real handbrake was thrown. And last night, the House stripped almost half of this tax cut bill out. The Senate had written the bill for the most part. 4.95 to 4.85 cut in the income tax for everyone. This is across the board. Some pretty substantial cuts in Social Security taxes, at least the state's portion of those Social Security taxes. And then about $6 million in targeted, that's the word they like to use, targeted business tax exemptions for specific businesses. That's what left the Senate last Friday. It got to the House, and last night the House stripped all of that out, left in only the income tax cut and the Social Security tax cut. No exemptions for businesses. And the Senate has to respond today. And we've got the audio for you. Also, a controversial bill, Senate Resolution 1, popped up earlier this week. And this is a bill that, quite literally, no exaggeration, would restrict media access to lawmakers during the legislative session. It came up for a committee hearing today, and it was quite a discussion, to say the least. The reasons given were kept pretty vague, honestly, by lawmakers. It seems to tie to a specific incident by a specific person or a specific media outlet. and also kind of hinted at it was not a traditional media outlet. It wasn't a radio station like us. It wasn't, our news team at CashValleyDaily.com. It wasn't the Salt Lake Tribune or Deseret News. They do at times credential non-traditional outlets like bloggers, or they have in the past at least, bloggers and amateur videographers that will film vlogs and then put them up on YouTube. I thought that they'd stopped credentialing them last year, but I maybe they didn't. Anyway, it seems to be an entity of that nature that's behind this. But lawmakers, again, were pretty vague. They wouldn't describe the specific incident, individual, or outlet that triggered this. And they are pushing this through. It did pass the committee, but some of the debate is worth hearing because it's easy to look at this, as I did, to look at this and say, oh, you want to restrict media access to lawmakers. And this iteration of the legislature has been far less transparent. Senate President Stuart Adams and House Speaker Brad Wilson have been far less interested in transparency than former President Wayne Niederhauser, who was a transparency devotee, and even Speaker Greg Hughes, who was dedicated to transparency. These two, the new leadership, they're not as interested, and it's popped up a few times. So understandably, hackles were raised over this, mainly in the media, but also some transparency organizations. All of us on the State Transparency Advisory Board got an alert on this, that it was happening, and saying if you want to go down and testify or do so via Zoom, please do. In the end, it was a 2.5-hour long discussion, and well, I'll just leave it there until hour 2 because we've got some audio clips for you that we want to give some significant time. But it's an interesting debate, and it ties back into some larger questions that relate to the January 6th insurrection in Washington, D.C. in 2021, the storming the Capitol and assault on police officers there, by protesters. It ties back to, there was an incident a couple of years ago here in Utah where swastikas and white power symbols were spray painted on the outside of the Capitol. That actually came up from a lawmaker during the committee hearing today. And the idea expressed many, many times by lawmakers is the rules have changed. There are some additional security concerns. To put that another way, lawmakers seem to be saying the days of just open access at the Capitol, where if you were credentialed, I've been credentialed before. I don't, a little sidebar, I don't fill out the credentials here for the people anymore because we've been around long enough. Everyone knows us. So I can just say, if I'm down there at the Capitol, hey, can I come in and meet with you? And nobody ever asks to see my media credentials because they know me. But, newer lawmakers, that's harder to do. And so if you're credentialed, you could pretty much go anywhere. You don't want to be rude about it because you only get one shot at that. If you interrupt somebody during lunch, they're probably not going to interview with you ever again. So you be courteous about it. But the Senate lounge, the hallways behind the chambers, behind the dais during a committee meeting, all these places were great places to catch someone and get a little bit of audio with them or a quote for a news story. And this bill is basically saying that all stops. That there are certain designated areas where you can meet with lawmakers, and to meet with them outside of those designated areas, you need to make a request, which, of course, if a lawmaker wanted to hide from the media, they'd just ignore the request, right? Never respond to it. So gone would be the days of dogged journalists chasing lawmakers down to get a comment, which happens way more than you think, on a specific controversy or a piece of legislation. It's not a pretty thing. But at the same time, again, lawmakers were expressing some pretty valid concerns, their own security and safety, and concern over what several lawmakers described as a changed landscape when it comes to media, which is another way of lawmakers basically saying, look, anyone and their dogs at this point, if they pass the background check, can get a media credential. And they might not have the greatest of intent when they come up here. And the least of their intent might be doing actual journalism. So there's some, again, they weren't specific about what the incident was or who it was or what media outlet it was, other than to imply that it was not a traditional media outlet. It wasn't a radio station or a newspaper or a broadcast TV station. So something online is what I'm guessing. And then some specific incident has occurred in recent time that has lawmakers a bit ruffled and a bit worried about their own safety. I don't know why they're not coming forward with what the specific event was, because that would probably create a lot of public sympathy for this move. Maybe there are legal reasons they can't. Maybe there are charges involved. I don't know. But they were just really vague. They just said there was an incident. We're worried. And we'd like to change some rules. It did pass the committee. So it's going to the Senate floor for a debate either later this week, I'd say more likely early next. And it would probably be amended, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it fail at that point, because a lot of times they do this to just start a conversation. But if it was a specific incident that does have lawmakers worried about their own safety, then at that point it's going to pass. And it won't be the end of the world, but it does further restrict media access to lawmakers, make it a lot easier for lawmakers to hide for the entire 45-day session, if one of them chose to, from the press, which is not a good thing. 753-5868. Mitch on the line. Mitch, your thoughts?
So just kind of amuses me that, teachers need to be more transparent, but the state legislature needs to be less.
Yeah. That was brought up actually during the committee meeting by Fox 13's Ben Winslow. He said, you've got all these bills going after teachers and classrooms, and you're doing it all. You're describing them as transparency bills yourself, and yet this bill is the exact opposite of anything you could even remotely pretend is transparency. Which, to their credit, Mitch, lawmakers acknowledged their whole justification today, and you'll hear this in some of the audio clips we have later on. Their whole justification today was, look, we will rarely enforce this rule. Rarely. Every person up there who sits on a committee as a committee chair, Senator Weiler, Senator McKell, Senator Bramble, they all said during this committee meeting today, on my committee, I won't enforce this rule. If the media wants to come behind the dais and get to lawmakers individually as soon as the committee meeting's over, go ahead. I won't stop you. But it would give them the ability to do so if other committee chairs decided to. And yeah. But yeah, you're right, Mitch. It is fairly ironic because they've been talking a big game about transparency this year, and then the first actual transparency issue pops up, and they're on the wrong side of it, right?
And then my other question on that is how much of it has to do with, was it that West Virginia senator, House of Representatives member that was ignoring their own constituents to the point that people were hunting them down when they went to go watch a movie because it was the only way to get them to even answer a phone?
Yeah. I think there's...
So how much of it's really, that's what they're worried about, is that we're going to get to that point with them.
I think there is some of that. And I sympathize to some extent, Mitch, because the idea of going out with your family to dinner, or even regardless of what your profession is or your side job as a lawmaker, since they're all, they have day jobs, it would be irritating, it'd be annoying, and it would, in this day and age, it would also make you kind of at least think about your safety and your family's safety. So I get that. But again, this seems to have been triggered by a specific incident that maybe they can't talk about. If there's a legal side of this, they can't talk about it. But a specific incident has occurred recently involving a specific individual or specific media organization, which they've been clear is not a, quote, traditional media organization. For example, there's a blog out of Southern Utah called the Free Range Report. It's a right-leaning news blog, and they do, to be honest, they obviously have an agenda. It's not straight-up news, but they do some pretty good digging sometimes on city councils and county councils down there in Southern Utah, and they are credentialed at the Capitol, so they can actually come up there. And so it could be an outlet like that, and they've done something that's burned lawmakers or maybe made them feel unsafe. That seems to be what's behind this. I don't know. The only thing specifically cited again is when swastikas and white power symbols were spray painted on the Capitol, I think last year or the year before, and what happened in D.C. January 6, 2021. Those are the two specific things that any lawmaker mentioned today. Other than that, they've been very vague. But it's a good point, Mitch. It might be, there are a couple of lawmakers who specialize in never speaking to the media. And unfortunately, I think, here in northern Utah, we've got a lawmaker like that now. And so the media does hound them, and they do basically hunt them down, track them down, and usually at the Capitol, but sometimes otherwise. And to some lawmakers, this is very offensive. When, really the solution is, look, you're a taxpayer-funded time here. The taxpayers are paying your bill. I think you have a duty to speak to the media and take those calls when they come. Whether it's a mayor or a city council member or a state lawmaker or a member of Congress, I think you have a responsibility in that office to speak to the media, because a lot of times that is the conduit to public access through the media. And so I think it's shameful, actually, when you have a lawmaker or a council member that feels, that they're special and they don't have to talk to the media. But on the flip side, as you pointed out, Mitch, this issue out of, I think it was Virginia, I think you're right, that was a lawmaker who was basically being harassed by the media. So it can go too far in the other direction. We'll see where it goes. The resolution passed the committee, heads to a floor debate, and we've got some audio of some of the testimony and pushback from lawmakers during this committee meeting today. Went about 2.5 hours just for this resolution. They still had 8 other bills to talk about after the 2.5 hour mark came and Senator Todd Weiler cut debate off. They still had another hour's worth of work to do. So one of the longer committee meetings I've ever seen. We've got some highlights for you. We'll have those in hour 2. Mitch, appreciate you calling. Always great to hear from you, and good point there. Sometimes when they're talking about transparency, that's when they're not being transparent. What you want to watch is when a transparency question comes up, like this Senate Resolution 1, and see which side they fall on. That's how you can see how dedicated to transparency they are. We'll be back with more of For the People right after this. Look at the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:39, and the news is brought to you by Northern Steel Building. A 28-year-old Hiram man is being bound over for trial for allegedly sexually abusing a woman for several years. Andrew Fenn denies the crime and claims his relationship with the alleged victim was consensual. Fenn participated in a preliminary hearing in First District Court Monday afternoon. He was previously charged with forcible sexual abuse, a second-degree felony. As part of the prosecutor's evidence in the case, Logan City Police Detective Micah Veers testified about how he began investigating Fenn back in March 2021 after the alleged victim claimed she had been sexually assaulted for years by the suspect. The two had been in a relationship previously. The woman told Veers how several of the incidents allegedly occurred while she was sleeping and only discovered because she woke up as they were happening. Fenn did not speak during the hearing. He is currently out of jail on pretrial release and could face up to 15 years in prison if convicted. 2 juveniles have been identified in connection with reports of multiple people being shot by airsoft projectiles in the Vernal area. In a social media post, Vernal police said they received several calls Monday from people reporting that they had been shot by an airsoft-type weapon by individuals in a moving vehicle. KUTV reports investigation into the incidents identified 2 suspects, and an Orbeez gun was recovered. Orbeez guns shoot a small diameter orb projectile and are accurate for a substantial distance, according to police. During the investigation, police discovered that the suspects shooting the Orbeez gun were doing so as part of a TikTok challenge. Police stressed that a criminal act performed during a challenge is still a crime, and that these challenges often victimize people or property. The 2 juveniles identified will be referred to 8th District Juvenile Court for multiple charges. And Graham Ike had 28 points and 12 rebounds and scored the game winner as Wyoming narrowly beat Utah State 78-76 in overtime last night in Laramie. Drake Jeffries' deep three-point attempt hit the front of the rim, but Ike grabbed the rebound from under the basket and scored off the glass with 6.6 seconds remaining in overtime. Rylan Jones missed a layup at the buzzer for Utah State. Hunter Maldonado scored 23 points for Wyoming. They improved to 9-1 in Mountain West play, 20-3 overall. They won their 5th straight game. Brandon Horvath tied a season high with 20 points for the Aggies, whose 5-game win streak was snapped. Utah State now 6-6 in the Mountain West, 15-10 overall as they prepare for Nevada in the Spectrum on Friday night. KBNU News Time is 4:42.
A building is just a building until it's your building. It's where you work, where you create, and where you store your valuable equipment. You take pride in your building, so make sure it's built right and built to last. Northern Steel Buildings will guide you from concept to construction. For your commercial, agricultural, or industrial steel building, visit northernsteelbuilding.com to see their quality work, or call 435-677-7300. Northern Steel Buildings. Value from concept to construction.
KVNU weather tonight, partly cloudy, hazy through the night, patchy fog after midnight, low near 15. Partly cloudy tomorrow, patchy morning fog, and haze through the day, mid-30s for the high. Mostly cloudy in the morning, then partly cloudy on Friday, upper 30s. It's been to 36. It's 35 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Maple Creek Ranch, home to a paradise free of Cache Valley inversions. Enjoy warmer winter temperatures and cleaner air, being several hundred feet above Cache Valley's floor. Visit maplecreekranch.net. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Rochelle Haynes, bringing you the daily financial market report on behalf of financial advisor Tom Arnold and Edward Jones for Wednesday, February 9th. Stocks finished higher again today, led by technology shares. The rise comes after encouraging earning results from Chipotle and most other reporting firms. The 10-year benchmark yield is holding near 1.95% after a dramatic surge in recent days, sending mortgage applications lower. Oil is holding steady at $90 a barrel, while investors wait for a resolution to the Russia-Ukraine military buildup. European and Asian shares are following suit, and we're trading higher. Comments from the Atlanta Fed president are likely contributing to positive investor sentiment. Bostic indicated that 3 rate hikes this year could be appropriate, with a possible 4th if inflation remains persistently high. The market currently expects the Fed to raise rates 5 times this year. Fewer rate hikes would mean a softer headwind for equities and the economy in 2022. About 77% of all companies that have reported earnings so far have beat analyst estimates despite wage pressures and supply shortages. Growing corporate profitability shows that even though wages are rising, productivity is also increasing, a good sign for the economy. 60% of S&P 500 companies have reported, with the remainder set to report in the coming weeks. U.S. equities closed higher today. The Dow closed up 306 points at 35,769. The NASDAQ closed up 296 points, 14,490. The S&P closed up 66 points at 4,587. And in the bond market, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 1.94% lower. In stocks of local interest, we have Thermo Fisher is up $2.32 at $589.85. Home Depot is up $2.93 to $364.37. Autolease is up 46 cents to $103.88. Lowe's is up $1.90 to $233.66. Walmart is down 30 cents to $137.69. Nucor is up $4.51 to $120.08. Coca-Cola is down 96 cents to 61.04. Kroger is down 35 cents to 45.15. General Electric is down 6 cents to 99.25. And R.R. Donnelley & Sons is up 1 cent to $10.76. In commodity markets, the price of crude oil was up 70 cents at $90.06. And the spot price of gold was up $5.70 to $1,833.60. This has been today's financial market report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Tron Arnold, serving individual investors with personalized attention and long-term financial advice at 1212 South Highway 89 in Logan. If you would like additional information, please contact any of our 7 Edward Jones offices in Logan, Providence, and Smithfield. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
NMLS 1817019.
From our Freedom Loan that covers 100% of your closing costs to our $1,000 lowest rate guarantee. As Utah's premier mortgage broker, LendRight Mortgage shops the top lenders in the country to find you the absolute lowest rate and fees. We often beat other lenders' rates by 1/4 to 0.5%. That means a lower mortgage payment for you, which can save you tens of thousands over the life of your loan. Compare us to any lender. If we can't save you a minimum of $1,000, we'll give you $1,000. Nobody does what LendRight Mortgage does. Nobody. See our rates and get a free quote on your purchase or refinance. Call 801-APPROVE or visit lendrightmortgage.com. Crushing other lenders is our specialty. Call 801-APPROVE or visit lendrightmortgage.com.
Ah, that's better. Trade in the stresses of building a new home for relaxation. Visionary Homes Priority is giving you a stress-free building experience. Named the best home builder in northern Utah, Visionary Homes team will guide you seamlessly through the home building process. Call today, 435-228-4702, or visit visionaryhomes.com to learn more about upcoming communities in Nibley, Logan, and Smithfield. Visionary Homes, built for living, built for you.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. We're going to jump right back in here because we have a special guest joining us. KVNU and CashValleyDaily.com's Craig Hislop joining the show here for a bit. This was a really unique thing that happened at Utah State University and throughout the state. And they're known as land signing statements. Another way to put that, though, is it's an acknowledgement by higher education campuses throughout the state that a lot of the land that these campuses and extension offices sit on originally belonged to indigenous people and oftentimes was not taken in a friendly way. So there's a move to acknowledge that and at least include it in the charter of these schools to, well, if, at very least be more accurate about history, but hopefully more so to remind people, you know, that this is where all of this started in a way, and indigenous peoples paid a pretty high price in many ways. So USU was one of the first universities in the state to take up this charge and lead with it. And KVNU's Craig Hislop had a chance to sit down with Marilyn Kutch of Utah State University. Here's Craig.
Well, thank you, Jason. It has been almost a year now that a committee has worked to draft Utah State University land acknowledgement statements. And the community leaders and the faculty who have worked on these say this project is an important first step in furthering USU's goals of educating and empowering the state. The committee chair is Marilyn Kutch, who joins us. Marilyn works in secondary education at USU. Marilyn, tell us what USU is acknowledging in these land acknowledgement statements.
Well, thank you so much for letting me be able to speak more about what we've been working on for about a year. It's exciting because USU is acknowledging that the in-state USU institutions, they reside on the original territories of the 8 federally recognized tribes of Utah. And when we say that, we are allowing for there to be the beginning of the story of what has happened in identifying the indigenous nations that call Utah their homelands, and also providing a greater context about the history of the indigenous tribes and peoples that reside and are very, very vibrant today.
In what ways, and I'm reading from the material here, in what ways does the finalizing of these documents further this USU's goals of educating and empowering the state then?
Well, one of the main reasons why we call USU a land-grant university is that land was appropriated for the education for individuals in the state of Utah. And as we look at the various centers and campuses across Utah State, in and of itself, we're really talking about the history of Utah State University and how it has come to be more than just one campus, but rather over 25 different state centers and campuses. And I think that it allows for us as Indigenous people to communicate that we are here, we want to be a part of the education of our own people and our community. And that is another next step that we would really like to further after we've done the land acknowledgement statements.
Well, I guess it stands to reason, and you kind of touched on this, that USU, because it has the 25 campuses and centers all over Utah, is certainly very likely to reside on the land of indigenous peoples.
Well, if you think about it, everywhere is indigenous land. This is our land. We've always lived here since time immemorial, and it must be known that, and to clarify, that we want to make sure that our history is told and to allow for there to be in community engagement and partnerships built with the various tribes. And even if you look at it, the way the state, Utah State University is set up, we have great opportunity to partner with them and really build an extremely strong community of learning among and with our tribal leaders.
A group known as College Values Online lists USU among 30 U.S. colleges with noteworthy efforts to further educational opportunities for indigenous students. In drafting these statements, have there been other universities who have been resistant to doing this?
I'm sure there have been. I'm probably taking the side of being positive because we have an opportunity as faculty and staff members at Utah State University to shape how the next steps will translate into allowing for opportunities for our indigenous students, more indigenous faculty to be brought to the university to further more research and programs and grant funding. And it makes it a viable living piece of what I believe President Crockett asked us to do. She believes we want to further more partnerships with our tribal nations and leaders and our student leaders that are taking courses across the state. So I take it from that other perspective, and I know that President Crockett, she trusted us with doing. We were surely honored, and I'm very, very honored to have been able to provide the service as the working chair.
USU, I didn't know this. USU grants students of tribal nations residency. In other words, so that they can pay in-state tuition. I assume that's been a benefit that goes much further back in time than this year-long work that you've been doing with these acknowledgement statements.
Yeah, it is. There's been provisions that have been enabled through Utah residency for tuition purposes, and there are, in addition to the Native Americans who are registered on the tribal rolls of the different tribes of lands that are contiguous to and within the Utah, they give the same in-state tuition to military veterans and dependents that qualify for residency, along with active duty military personnel. So I think that is a very positive piece that we need to do more admissions work, and also letting our students know that there's a wonderful opportunity across the statewide campus system for Indigenous students to be able to still stay in their home communities, get a great education, and feed back into the economic vitality and programming within our statewide campuses, too.
Talking with Marilyn Kutch, she's the committee chairman of a committee that's worked to draft USU land acknowledgement statements, and we're talking about that. How many tribes did you connect with in Utah in assembling these statements?
Well, we talked with the Utah tribal leaders, and I'm so thankful that we had a connection through Elena Begay and her work also with James Toledo. But we work with the Confederated Tribes of the Goshute Indians, the Navajo Nation, Ute Indian Tribe, Northwest Band of Shoshone, the Paiute Indian Tribe of Utah, San Juan Southern Paiute, Skull Valley Band of Goshute, White Mesa Band of the Ute Mountain Ute, and most importantly, we wanted to make sure that our students had an input on it, and our alumni and our faculty that were Indigenous, and we were able to do this because they were supportive of it. The tribal leaders were happy, they were glad, and they also provided clarification or additions to all of the other statewide campuses. We tailored them specifically to the statewide campuses. Because we're not just one campus, we're geographically located across Utah and then also one in Colorado.
Are these statements available for the public to see?
Mm-hmm. They are. There is a landing page, so to speak, for the president's office, and in there you'll see there's a link, and you can read all of them. It was of great importance from President Crockett that we acknowledge that there are statewide campuses and across the state that we make it specific to our locations and our centers and campuses.
Well, Marilyn, we appreciate you and thank you for your role in this project and for helping us understand how important this work is.
Yeah, you're welcome. We're going to continue to work on it and build in an educational website. We're just really proud that President Crockett trusted us to do this and that she's always been so supportive of our Indigenous faculty, staff, and students.
Well, and I know this project was a priority to her because, for one reason, there are probably others. USU, as you mentioned, is a land-grant institution.
Mm-hmm. It is. It is.
Well,
and that's where the story is going to continue. So
yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks to you. Let's get back to Jason and to Bill now.
Thank you, Craig. Very cool stuff. Stay tuned. More cool stuff coming up. What happened on Capitol Hill today? Quite a bit. Highlights in hour 2 of today's show right after this here on KVNU Logan.
West Liberty Foods in Tremonton is excited to announce that they've increased their starting wages to $17 per hour for general production and to $19 per hour for machine operators and forklift operators. A shift premium is added on for the second shift of $1.50 per hour. West Liberty Foods offers paid vacations, attendance rewards, 401k, medical, dental, and vision insurance. Looking for part-time work? Pick the days you'd like to work. Call West Liberty Foods at 435-207-7000 to speak with a recruiter today.
Procrastination isn't a valid retirement strategy. If your saving for retirement approach involves the phrase, "I'll get around to it someday," it's time to make someday into today. Edward Jones can help. Contact your local Edward Jones financial advisor to get started today. Visit edwardjones.com or stop by your local Edward Jones office. When it comes to meeting your retirement goals, time can be on your side, and there's no better time than now. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
This Valentine's Day, surprise your sweetheart with a watch from S.E. Needham Jewelers. You'll find competitive price on a large selection of Seiko, Citizen, Fossil, and Tissot watches. We provide impeccable service with our professional watch technicians. To top it off, all watches purchased at S.E. Needham Jewelers come with free lifetime battery replacement, free watch band adjustment, and free gift wrap. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7. A Needham watch on every wrist. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
Prepare for tomorrow at ready.gov/today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Covering all the news. Stay with 610 AM and 102.1 FM. Breaking news and stimulating talk.